Welcome to the Lighthouse Conversations. I'm Hashim Montasser speaking to you from my home in Dubai. I'm excited to share a recording of our live conversation with Lebbos, founding partner at Astrolabs based here in the UAE. As you all know, it's been a few months since we've been quarantined at home, and I hope all of you are keeping safe. As part of our continuing conversation featuring entrepreneurs from the world of arts, culture, tech and food, we held our first virtual episode on Facebook last week.
How do I look?
You look great. Lewis dialed in from Portugal, where he's currently spending his summer, to talk to us about how Astrolabs got started and how he and his co-founder Mohammed managed to move from their previous startup, Namshi, to Astrolabs. Astrolabs currently has two main tiers of business: the co-working spaces, there are two in Dubai and one in Riyadh, and the academy, a public-facing one that anyone can join and take classes on coding, e-commerce, digital marketing, etc., as well as private sessions they hold for and with governments, large corporations, and universities.
When we started the co-working space, we didn't want to start co-working space. We wanted to make the entrepreneurs' lives easier, right? And having co-working space without a license, in our perspective, was basically not super useful for entrepreneurs who want to start a business, start a bank account, hire people, give them visas and all this stuff. So the co-working space is the envelope, but with it comes like a highly subsidized license, comes everything that you would need from printing to meeting rooms, office supplies, internet, etc., with other support services that you don't have to worry about at all.
So you essentially facilitate my entry as a new startup into my company formation early phase, correct?
Correct. So
I mean, take care of most of these things for me.
So basically, you apply to become a member. If we accept you, you start. Next day, you can have a fully fledged office with all of these services. One element is you don't. Some of the companies want a license, right? And this is for someone who either doesn't have a license somewhere else or needs a bank account and residency and all that stuff. But you can also use co-working space without the licensing facilities as well.
Sure. Okay, and obviously this is a very unusual time after COVID and the situation we're in. We're seeing acceleration of certain trends. Clearly, there's a huge acceleration in terms of digitization. So for companies that are already online or are pure online players, many of them e-commerce, web conferencing, et cetera, they've obviously seen a large increase of volume and demand for their services. Companies that were maybe mostly offline have very quickly started to ramp up to try to go online. From your perch, because you are dealing with the academy, so you've already had for many years now courses and classes that deal with exactly that. I mean, I took one of your courses, which was terrific, a 3-day course.
Thank you.
Me and my co-founder of the Lighthouse, because at the time, we were starting an F&B operation, and we wanted to know, even if you hired someone, how do you do it? Because this way we could, even if we, bring in someone or a company on board, we wanted to know what they're doing and have a sense for ourselves. So from your perch on that front, on the startups, but also, as you've said, perhaps corporates and governments and others that you sort of quote unquote advise and work with, have you seen that same trend? Is that very visible to you?
No, definitely. Immediately from week 2, week 1 was panic mode. Obviously, the 5 stages of grief or something, there's people who are in denial, all the stuff, panic, etc. But quickly, some organizations started to realize that I need to do something about it. And, in our region, it starts first with the organization. When someone comes and takes our classes, it's not someone that, it's usually people who are either wanting to upgrade their skills and upgrade their career within an existing organization, or they were let go, right? So even the B2C demand that we see, someone comes to set up a company with us, they might have lost their job, and they come and they're like, okay, it's time to do my startup. Someone who also comes to take our week-long digital marketing class, sometimes they also lost their job, or they're kind of worried about their job and they want to upgrade. In good times, people want to move up in their own organizations. In bad times, what we see is also this B2B led shift. from the B2B side, definitely tons of organizations got in touch, and we realized honestly that this was going to happen. This maybe second week of March, we realized that people will have e-commerce as the lifeline, and we're like, okay, we've worked with big organizations on their e-commerce initiatives in the past, but honestly, 99.99999% of the world doesn't know that we do this. So let's at least put it on a landing page on our website and tell people on LinkedIn that we do this e-commerce programs. So from that, now it's basically like our list of people who are interested. It's basically the who's who of every retailer in the region.
If I come to you today, so let's use an example here. I'm an offline retailer, whatever I do, and I come and say, Louis, I need your help, and I need to do this quickly and ramp up. And many of those are large organizations, so even to navigate their internal network is not easy.
Yep.
You cannot really, this is not a 2-week solution, right? This takes time. So what advice would you give? Because it takes companies months, sometimes years to build up a proper channel online.
Listen, if someone wants a 2-week solution, there is a 2-week solution. There's a 1-day solution,
What's the 2-week solution? Give me a sense. So
2-week solution is actually much more complex, but the 1-week solution is you can start shipping stuff. You can put your 800 number online, or have people send you messages on WhatsApp and ship them stuff. Depending on how much you want to hustle, right? So there's coffee companies that lost their B2B restaurant business, and they need to start flipping B2C immediately. You can have people WhatsApp you and say 2 kilos and this is the address, and you send it to them. Is this the stable solution? No, but it depends on what you can achieve within that window, right? In a few weeks, you can put a simple website up. Honestly, probably even someone in the organization, people don't realize. Okay, we're not talking about these massive e-commerce plays, but again, we're dealing with crisis. Sometimes there's the short-term play, sometimes the medium-term, sometimes the long-term play. You can put a simple website up and start selling stuff. Stuff is not that complex. E-commerce was done 20 years ago, and there's a lot of off-the-shelf knowledge that you can do.
Okay.
That said, my recommendation, because that was your question, is okay. There is going to be this, dip and all stuff, and you can try to, run around trying to solve the super short-term solution, but instead try to think, okay, what does this fire help me achieve for the long term? Right? There's one, there's survival, but 2 is, what do I want to come out? Let's say, the COVID situation is 4, 5, 6 months, 1 year. Whatever it is, what are you going to come out on the other end doing? If you do the short-term fix, it's not going to be the long-term making you a stronger solution.
Yeah, but can we just stay with this example for a minute? I just want to take us through the entire sort of chain here. You've helped me cobble together a quick fix in terms of a website that's functional enough for now. Okay.
Yep.
Now, how do I get traffic? Because my customer base does not know I have a website. Do I start putting together a budget to spend online on Facebook and Google and so on and so forth? Or what would you recommend?
No, absolutely. Listen, also it depends on your product category, right?
Sure. I'm simplifying, but I just want to go through the entire process.
Yeah. But I'm just giving an example. If you're selling golden seeds for Bentleys that are maybe that's different than if you're a coffee supplier. But let's assume you're a CPG coffee type or snacks or something. Hopefully, you have something to start with. Maybe it's a email list, maybe it's a list of phone numbers, something. If you have nothing, you can also do it, obviously, but you have to start from scratch. And in general, depending on the market segment, and depending on also what is this a product is people that absolutely need? Are they searching for where can I find this thing now? If there's search volume, you can do some research and see, on Google keyword search, is there search volume that is out there is looking for this stuff? You could see actually there's some really interesting cool graphs that as soon as COVID hit, people were starting to search for stationary bikes, treadmills, this type of stuff, crazy demand.
Yeah.
And it's actually they disappeared from the whole market. So if there's actually demand, you can harness it by saying, okay, what kind of Google search traffic I can capture and all this stuff. And honestly, again, if there's demand, referral will be like a really important one. Like the first one I got my treadmill at website X, and they have stock. You should get it too. Etc. And then if it's like a product that there's not as much search volume, or maybe there's like a little bit too much competition on that, then you can do like the other kind of like push marketing kind of campaigns, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, etc., etc. Listen, again, it depends on kind of like the time frame, because if it's like 2 weeks and you need to like move inventory, then you have to spend money on marketing, absolutely. And then if you have longer time, you can spend some more stuff on building kind of like content and other stuff that takes like months and months.
So why is it then, do you think, that still is a lot of smaller companies, startups, SMEs, etc., complain that they are not able to extract value online? Because I know that you're simplifying the process a little bit, but I know in our community of a lot of companies that are startup of nature, whatever it is that they sell, would tell me, Hashem, I spend X and Y on Google and Facebook and Instagram, and yet, my yield, so to speak, is very, very low. Why do you think that is? Is it because they don't know how to optimize? Is it that they're not spending enough or being aggressive enough? Because a lot of people are spending, they don't have large budgets, but they are spending, but they're not getting, they don't feel at least that they're getting anything back for their money.
Yeah. Listen, I love Google and Facebook. I have lots of friends in both. But they are basically black holes of money. You can basically like bring a truck, 18-wheeler of cash and dump it, and it'll disappear if you don't know what you're doing, right? You should be like throwing like each cent or fills one at a time into that black hole and see what happens. Do you get something back? You don't get something back, and that's the process of optimization you alluded to. And that's basically why our marketing class exists. We have tons of people, from startups to honestly like existing marketing managers managing multi-million-dollar budgets, that come and they've not been exposed to this optimization performance marketing thing. Remember, just like 10 plus years ago, I remember the time when we started Namshi, I actually didn't want to build like a huge performance marketing team. I thought it was easier if I find like a performance marketing agency that does this for me. This is 2011, 2012. So, but I couldn't find anyone, because like the people are used to like blasting ads on TV stations and
billboards.
Stuff. We had to build our own performance marketing team. Thankfully, there are more agencies now, but honestly, the majority of agencies are not good. And if they are kind of good, they have the wrong incentives, because many agencies are charging like percent of spend and this type of stuff. And again, every now and then, Google is a public company, Facebook public company. Again, the teams are great people, but they're incentivized to make you spend more. Performance marketing is a quant world, and people, because there's the word marketing, think it's the creative world. Just like most hedge funds don't make money, most marketing campaigns don't make money.
Look, both are very large subjects. Maybe we'll have a separate podcast on hedge funds. I'd love to do that and put on my former banking hat. And also, obviously, the role of big tech, which is a whole different topic here. But you guys are Google accredited, right, as an institution. Do you think there's a conflict of interest here, because you have this large company that in a way looms large, and they obviously want you to push their products as well, and you are providing, in some cases, independent advice? And I'm not just saying you, obviously this is a case that exists in many places. Do you feel in any way that there's a conflict there if you decide to go tell me, Masan, I'm in your space, and you come and say, look, don't spend so much on Google. Actually, it's not worth your budget. You should be putting it on, I don't know, LinkedIn, because it's less crowded and you're going to get more value for money.
I guess you haven't joined our digital marketing track, which is the week-long class we do.
No, I didn't.
I just told you that Google and Facebook are black holes of money, and they want to take your money, and they're incentivized to take your money. Zero conflict of interest. This is why people come to our training programs versus going to Google itself or Facebook itself to take their training programs. They're super biased to talk flack about the other company, whereas we're totally unbiased. Our work, we're a mission-driven organization. Our work is about creating this ecosystem. And one component of creating this ecosystem is creating really high performance digital marketing people.
Sure.
Because a company, from a startup or a bigger company, will not grow if they don't really know where each dollar being spent, what kind of return on investment it is. This ecosystem will be still wasting money on like marketing, and the money will go to Mountain View and I guess most of them are Mountain View.
Your view, Louis, if you would compare the region to other parts of the world, US, Europe, in terms of the sophistication, to this problem we discussed, namely startups or SMEs with limited budgets, finding it difficult to get value for money in their digital marketing and performance marketing. That's probably a worldwide phenomenon, but where would you benchmark us versus other parts of the world in terms of effectiveness?
Yeah, listen, we can talk about averages. An average, we're super behind, but you can find people in the region that are like world class. You can find people in the region that are like Silicon Valley grade marketers.
Okay.
Are they few? Yeah, they're super few. But
those are super behind. Is it because it's just we came in late to the game?
Listen, it's not like a part of the DNA to know the stuff. So, and on average, honestly, you should not expect an ecosystem to only be driven by like super smart people, because some of the stuff becomes common knowledge, and it's like taking time to trickle. And this is why, honestly, we felt like, because we didn't have the eBays and Yahoos and all the stuff, that we need to short circuit the ecosystem a bit to build these like infrastructure capabilities that we're doing, at Astrolabs, to kind of fast track our development in ecosystem. Last year, we graduated like more than 1,000 people that have done at least our week-long digital marketing class. I think that's like a really huge contribution. It's I'm biased, but it would take multiple Kareems, many Kareems, to create that much performance marketing talent.
Some time back, when I used to be a banker and I was in asset management, I built an asset management business, which was a regional business. I had started my career working for large Wall Street firms. And many other of my colleagues, let's say, that worked with me in that same asset management firm, but also some of our competitors, were similar. They got the building blocks, the toolkit, and then came here and did something from scratch or within a smaller company, and had in some ways, at least during that period of time, the best of both worlds. Early 2000s, let's say, a whole bunch of companies within investment banking, asset management, private equity, etc., that were regional in nature that did very well, for a while at least. Why did we not see something, or not seeing something similar in that world? In other words, you've alluded to this earlier, why do we not today have the super agency that is ex-Googlers and ex-Alta Vista, et cetera, but that also knows preferences speaks the local language, and by speaking, I don't mean just Arabic, I meant like understand the local preferences, put these two together, and you create this phenomenal agency that everybody wants to work with?
There's two thoughts, I guess. This is like a complex question, and it's a very interesting one. I think, one, we do see a little bit of it. We do see people come and start small agencies, and we might not have ever heard of them because they're still small, and it takes time to build a service business. Okay. Two, as you know, a service business is hard. So if I'm like a wow performance marketing person, maybe I work somewhere else because, one, you have clients yelling at you. Two, collecting money in the region is, I think, worse than like most other places. And working at Google in Dubai is comfortable. So that's one element of it.
But so was working at Goldman Sachs in Dubai, and still people had decided at the time to try to do something else. Not everybody. Many stayed at the Goldman Sachs of the world.
So listen, the other answer, or maybe two others. One is, I do know of some Googlers thinking about it.
Okay.
But
this is like market-breaking news.
The most advanced performance marketing people at Google are not working in Dubai, right? We're working with account managers, very nice people, smart people, but they're not really deep in the technical details because it's a sales office at the end of the day. It's a sales office with like a lot of smart people, a lot of ex-consultants. And maybe unlike the Goldman Sachs office, they're not doing deals and all the stuff that they're not learning the craft at a deep enough level to go and start that company themselves. So that's one element. Two, the agency business, I think, in the region is a bit kind of weird. I actually don't know too much about it. It's like It's like an oligopoly and all the stuff. And I'm not sure if the people that know more about it are excited to enter it themselves. That said, there are a lot of small players. I'm optimistic, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Let's shift gears here a little bit and talk a little bit about you. So I want to kind of rewind here and go back. You grew up in Lebanon and then went to the States for college, then stayed, worked, and you've straddled a number of interesting cities, not the ones that one would expect typically. So, and then you wind up saying, how long was your entire stay in the States? Quite some time.
Yeah. So it was basically 4 years undergrad and around undergrad, 4 years of work and 2 years of business school.
And you worked in Cleveland and Philadelphia. So you just left your school and said, I want to go to Cleveland?
No, I left my school, this was 2004. I started school actually thinking about I'm going to become a physics major. Okay. And I transferred to engineering. And then during it, I got the exposure to entrepreneurship. That's a separate story on its own. And I realized that actually, I kind of want to get exposure to the world of business. But we were coming out of the 2002, 2003 recession, if you remember. I ended up super luckily, a few months after graduation, with this offer to join a manufacturing company, but very diversified. And I started in their inside sales team. And I thought, honestly, for a super nerdy engineer, nerdy is nerdy. This is trial by fire of get out there and speak to people, all the stuff. The job was a lot on the phone. Although it was not an outside sales job, not knocking and selling Bibles or whatever, but selling Tupperware. It was actually still talking to people on the phone the whole time. The outside sales people, customers, and all the stuff. Super different than the ultra nerdy world of engineering and physics. So the management in that organization kind of realized that this guy is kind of weird in some ways, but in good ways. So they enrolled me in this program called the Leadership Development Program, which is a rotational program they do to develop the general management cadre of the organization. So from there, it was mostly kind of these are your options. Maybe Cleveland was the first one, I forgot, or Ann Arbor, Michigan. And it was around 9 months in each position. Totally different function of the organization, totally different division. No one. A truck would come, take all of my stuff from my apartment. It's not like I'm going in a hotel and stuff. Take everything, break the lease. Every year, sign a 1-year lease, break it at 9 months. And then go to a new city, no one, new function, new organizational stuff. Amazing experience. Worked with incredibly smart people, but that's the big but is it's manufacturing. So a lot of my assignments were closing plants, shutting down plants in Michigan, in New Jersey, and other places. I was getting my hands dirty all the time, but this was getting your hands dirty and being depressed about people losing their job, shipping the jobs to Mexico. Sometimes when it didn't make sense, but for tax reason, it makes sense because if you put it there and then you have your Swiss entity own it. Listen, that may be a little bit kind of cynical about the whole kind of manufacturing world in the US. And I was like, you know what? I need to do something else, whatever it is. So I applied to business school and got in and went to HBS.
And when was the entrepreneurial bug planted? Was it HBS? Was it when you came back to the region?
Listen, I think since I was a kid, I always thought that I'd be doing my own stuff and all this stuff. When you talk about bug, there is a occasion that happened where I was sitting in engineering class and a professor walks in, not our professor, and says, we're starting this engineering entrepreneurs program. Anyone interested to join it, contact me. I contact him. It was a program that exposes you on a weekly basis to startups. This is you're talking 2002, and then all your kind of design projects in engineering are just made to be a startup. Whatever theoretical one, but you kind of get that. Our spring break. Most of my classmates were going to Cancun and all the stuff, and our spring break was to the Silicon Valley in 2003. where we met Steve Wozniak. We had lunch with him. We met like startups. Back then, startups were super different because there's a lot of hardware at that stage. People were playing a lot with phones and the new form factors happening with the keyboards. Anyway, that's where the bug was. Okay. That said, the context is I grew up with no money. So it's not like, maybe more courageous people would jump on it immediately, but they grew up with no money at all. So I needed to build something, some kind of cushion to be able to like start to, be more comfortable doing my own thing. And kind of working in the US, learning management, learning sales, learning supply chain, all the stuff, just, just felt that it made sense.
But to me, it still indicates that you were really very interested in doing something on your own, because obviously if you were worried about just the financial side, you would have spent, 5 years at the McKinseys of the world or any of those places. Yeah. But you spent, I think, just enough for you to be comfortable. And then when you came here back to the region, Namshi was a startup at the time, right? So this was a high risk type of opportunity.
I guess a couple of things. You asked earlier about why consulting and all this stuff. I was in business school. And again, we were coming out of the 2008-2009 recession.
And 30% of your graduating class is going to consultants.
Yeah. So basically, there's people who either got jobs in consulting or like some other places. Some people didn't get jobs until like much later and all this stuff. I was looking at what are the options for me to move anywhere closer to my parents. We said earlier, 10 years in the US.
Sure.
Parents who could visit only once per year because you have 10 days of vacation per year in the US. So it's just like not doable, not part of my DNA. So I was looking for anything closer to Lebanon. And the offer came from McKinsey Dubai, and I took it and spent a bit less than a year there. And when Muhammad sends an email out to the whole office saying, I'm planning on leaving, I'm leaving to start a new company, I reply immediately saying, is this for real? And he says, yes, let's talk.
Just to explain, Muhammad is your current co-founder.
He's my current co-founder and my previous co-founder with Namshi.
Okay.
Muhammad Mekki. People probably know him. 2 weeks later, I was out. I wasn't sure what this will become. I have no idea. But I knew that I wanted to kind of like try something different. And after a year in consulting, I had paid most of my MBA loan. The nice thing also about like growing up with not much money, almost no money, is you don't need a lot of money.
You're self-sufficient.
So basically, like if you want to repay your business school loan, you repay it. You don't have to live in a super posh way and extravagance. So
I'll fast forward a little bit and just to walk us through the transition from Namshi to Astrolabs. How did that come up? Why did you and Muhammad decide to stick together? Because it's a business decision, it's an emotional decision, it's a very complex. So did you guys have a good experience at Namshi? And if so, why did you decide to pivot to this? Walk us through some of your thinking at the time.
So the most important context is that at Namshi, we raised a lot of money early, right? That is one of the lessons that I kind of go 180 degrees against right now. When you do that, the company grows if you invest the money correctly, right? There's like a million examples of companies wasting all that money. But if you invest the money correctly after you raise it, you can grow quickly. But then the control component of the company ownership goes away, right?
By control component, are you talking about dilution of your ownership, or are you talking about company culture, or both?
No, so company culture, thankfully, the people that at least worked at Namshi then can we were able to shape it like in a deep way. And this is why also a lot of talent that is still across the region now still talks about like the amazing days of Namshi time. But you don't have like a strategic decision capabilities, right? You're always fighting the investors on this and that and all the stuff. And we had one of the worst, obviously, investors. People might not know it, but this a investment company called Rocket Internet in Berlin, and they have like a reputation for being super aggressive.
Sure.
And listen, you do something.
When you took the money, did you not go and do some due diligence and go to maybe some other portfolio company and be like, hey guys, you took money from Rocket. What's been your experience?
No, listen, these conversations had happened before I even like joined Muhammad. This was kind of like Rocket was
already there.
Yeah, the Rocket was planning on starting something in the region, and it was going to be something like Noon Style or something else. And around those like last weeks before I joined, they were like discussing kind of like the like fashion e-commerce model. So it's not like, we started the company, bootstrapped it, then like we were picking on the investors and all stuff. It was like there's this seed money, a couple $1 million, and we can start this venture. And that kind of made stuff easier because remember, in fashion e-commerce, you spend a lot of money on inventory, and it's just basically impossible to do it otherwise. Just impossible to do it. You cannot. I don't know if any fashion e-commerce company has ever been like bootstrapped at the beginning.
Just within that context, because you alluded to this earlier. So when you started Astrolabs, you went kind of the other extreme. So when I asked you the other day, I was like, you guys are venture funded, because I assumed so, because you're now you have 3 different cities, I guess, 3 or 4 different cities. So, this costs money, right? to build place, you have a co-working space, to build on your program, etc. And you were like, no, we're completely bootstrapped. So was this sort of a complex, quote unquote, coming from your Namshi days? And the follow-up question to that is, when you're bootstrapped now, is there days where you go back and say, you know what, maybe we should have raised a little bit of money because we can move faster, and this way maybe other competitors or others cannot catch up as quickly?
So listen, I think different models force different decisions and financial strategies. We could not have done Namshi at all bootstrapped, so we had to take money from whom is a different story, and was it Namshi or something else, a different story. But when we were doing Astrolabs, we knew it was like just at the top is like a mission-driven company that is going to do an impact in this region, but we didn't know anything else. And when you want to be, experimental and opportunistic, it's easier not to have investors.
100%. Yeah, 100%. But this was at the beginning. That I get completely.
Yeah.
And by the way, I mean, just kind of on a personal anecdote, when we started the Lighthouse, because we didn't come from that business at all, was exactly the same. We bootstrapped it with self-finance because we said, you know what, if we make the mistakes or if we fail, we don't want to string others along. And we only started looking at outside financing when we felt we had a footing, with the exception of a few very close friends and family. So that I completely understand. But now you're further down the line. Your business is quote unquote set.
Listen, one, I don't think the business is set. We're still opportunistic. We still think that we could be 100 times bigger. And I kind of like don't want investors. Like I'm in Portugal right now. I spend my summers in Portugal. I pick my team. I pick the projects we want to work on. There's kind of like no reason. Speed for me is not like a good thing. We could do stuff faster, but why? So
I'm going to push back some more.
Sure.
You could have investors that are aligned. They don't have to be the Rocket type. I mean, you can have an investor that's silent, that's very much, and tells you, you know what, you, Louis, you and Mohammed, go ahead, spend as much time you want in Portugal. I don't care. Try different things out. It's not just, so I'm just pushing back because I want people that are listening to understand, because I think those are the kind of, forks of the road that many of us face when you start businesses. And there's no right or wrong here. So I want to just kind of get...
No, listen, about like 4 or 5 years ago, we entertained a group of people that wanted to put money to scale the co-working business in Astrolabs. And after like a couple of months of kind of entertaining it and even like, building a model, we're like, you know what? No. Because we just, not sure on like this model itself, and we want to do whatever we please. So that group was a nice group. I'm not saying like the investors in essence, is
friendly people that can work with you.
If you do know someone who wants to give me like a bunch of millions of dollars and will never ever talk to me again, maybe I'll talk to them, and they're always like amazing advice, whatever I decide on doing. Listen, I'll entertain it. But right now, you know who's doing that? Our customers. Our customers are giving us millions of dollars, and we're using that to finance the company. Zero salary cuts at Ashlab. Everyone getting, no salary cuts. A good chunk of the team is getting like 100% of the salary right now, and there's some people are like with small delays. So, why? I'm in no rush to go anywhere.
That's sort of very, very against a lot of what we see and what we learn in places like HBS and others, right? It's like the run, the whole model of sort of, you have to scale it quickly, and the Facebook break things and blah, blah, blah. So I like this philosophy. I want to go a little bit deeper into this. Why are you okay with the concept of let me take my time and do it as it comes?
This connects to two other ideas. Yeah. Actually, it connects to a bunch more because it's at the core of a philosophy. People talk about like building ecosystems. There's no shortcuts in life. I don't know. Have you ever had a herb garden or garden overall? Go flooded with water, flooded with what do you call it? Not pesticides, but flooded with fertilizer, flooded with water. It doesn't make it grow faster. And this is what ecosystems are. Ecosystems are delicate things that you have to have patience of and do them over 5, 10, 20 years. And as an organization, you could try to go faster, but you'd be probably hurting the ecosystem. There's like, you probably, as a restaurateur, have watched Jiro Dreams of Sushi, I guess. I mean, imagine like he like flips the switch and he has like franchises everywhere and like one in Disney World and all of the stuff, blah, blah. Would it be the same thing? No. We love the craft. We love creating things. I mean, it's not like we don't want to be bigger. We're growing 100% year on year, Hashim. So it's not that we don't want to be bigger. But this year TBD. But there is organic growth that fits what the ecosystem needs and helps us think deeply about where we invest. Helps us, match the right products with the right segment, all of stuff. Plus, everyone on our team, if they work productively, have an amazing, balanced, life. They don't need to be at the office super late. They can spend time with their kids. I have a 20-month-old son, and I have put him to bed almost every single night since he was born.
Sure.
Almost every single myself with my hands, and most of his naps too. What?
The poor kid did nothing.
Exactly. No, joking. And also most of his naps as well, because I put him to his morning nap before I leave to the office.
Sure.
That is priceless to me.
I completely hear you, and I have to say I subscribe to a very similar philosophy in that sense, and I have learned the hard way maybe in my very early 30s. As I said, when I was doing this asset management business, was all about running and growing and so on and so forth. And there was merit to it, but I learned a lot from that. And in my 40s now, and in the current businesses that I work on and work with and invest in, I very much take a very similar approach. So I completely understand. I was probing because I think it's a point that comes up a lot. And and I have also learned from my personal experiences in those sort of, and nothing against them, God bless them, the Harvards of the world and so on. There's so much emphasis on this concept of bigger, faster, quicker, etc. And then they're like, but also do meditation and yoga. I mean, it's just not. I have to say, to me, this came a bit later in life. So 10, 15 years ago, that there was an utter lack of balance, and maybe that's why I decided to make changes.
Basically, in 2006, I was like 25 years old. I was on one of those projects that is like moving a plant from Grand Rapids, Michigan to Reynosa, Portage, Michigan, and I would wake up in the morning and like blood. I was like gnawing my teeth so much. It's like blood coming out of my gums in the morning. Grinding. So one day I woke up and I was like, why is this happening to me? If the whole company goes bankrupt, who gives? So the next morning I woke up better. And honestly, since that day, I have that perspective that you do work you're proud of. You try to do your best to people who are close to you. I have kind of like this circle of closeness mentality, but also like people that never knew you, that are nice people that want to pay it forward. And then that's the best you can do. And then you live your life. I love reading books. I spend like 2 hours reading books, and every day I email people telling them I cannot meet. If I meet more people, I either spend less time with Galileo, my son, or with my books.
I couldn't agree more, and I think it's very important for people to hear that, because there's as hard as I think entrepreneurs work, and I'm sure you do, and I know I do, and everybody in my team does as well. If you don't have that balance, and if you can't set your own priorities, I think a lot of things go wrong. I completely agree with you. So I've learned, again, the hard way, for example, that all my important meetings I now take usually early in the morning, where I have a lot of clarity, and I do 1, 2, at most 3, and that's it. It doesn't mean I don't work for the rest.
Totally opposite strategy for me.
Yeah, but whatever works for you, right? My point being is, Look, to me, very early morning, I'm very clear. I'm not agitated. I'm still, and I do my best work. It doesn't mean I don't work for the rest of the day, but I can maybe do things that don't require as much sort of mental processing. And I think people, and maybe hopefully this period now with people being at home, will be used for some more self-reflection. But I wanted to break the stereotype of every startup has to raise an enormous amount of money early, and many of them, as we well know, including the ones that have done really, really well in terms of exits, the Kareems and others that you mentioned, even those business models are challenged, let alone smaller companies. And then secondly, the issue of, as entrepreneurs, that sort of it has to be all or nothing, that you can't have balance, you can't find. Okay, well, we have a few more minutes left. I just want to quickly ask you, given the current situation,
I blocked 3 hours for this, by the way.
Oh, perfect. Well, you're going to be on your own for the next 2, but but I'm glad you did. So, obviously, some elements of your business now might be under some pressure given the COVID situation. Especially the co-working space. As you're looking, and it's hard to say today, but I want to get your thoughts forward. I mean, when people are worried about social distancing, they're worrying about, all of these things. Do you think you're going to have to reconfigure parts of your model, or do you believe that it's just a matter of time, and if you kind of are able to survive and kind of grind through this period, you'll go back to the same thing?
Yeah, number 2. Same thing. People, I think the pandemic is super, super important and a serious threat to all of us, and should take it seriously. But honestly, in the long term, it's nothing. In the long term, it should teach us, some lessons. But life will go back to normal. In the meantime, we will, obviously, people will social distance within the space. People will find their kind of comfort. Maybe some people will not be comfortable with co-working space and they'll leave. But what we found is, as soon as the co-working space never closed, by the way, because it's an office, so you cannot block it for people. It never closed since we opened it 5 years ago, not even one day. So people were going all the time, but now people are so happy to be back. People crave human contact.
Yeah, humans are social creatures.
The people that are thinking that okay, we might do some more webinars. I might do some more webinars, but not as much as we're doing now. But I'm definitely gonna do way fewer Zooms and all this stuff. I'm gonna go meet people. Yesterday, my wife and I went to dinner in Lisbon. It was the first day of restaurants opening back again here, and we were celebrating. She just started a new job yesterday, and it was so nice to be I don't know any of the people in the restaurant, but so nice to see strangers with smiley faces enjoying themselves. I'm really excited for you guys to do. When are you guys reopening?
We'll see. I mean, sooner hopefully rather than later. But obviously, we're just waiting for it. That's a whole different conversation. But our model is as such that our customers have to be coming in happy and able to relax. And until that happens, we don't expect it to be 100% as it was before. but I need to be able to give you that feeling. And currently, with the regulations of 30% capacity, et cetera, it's disposables. It's hard to do. Yeah. So we're just waiting for the right time.
But listen, people will come.
Opening as well.
And they will come with alacrity. I have 2 co-working spaces in Dubai, and we have a 3rd office that you've seen in Courtyard that's really beautiful.
Correct.
And I still, at least 1 day per week, I go work from a cafe because I love being around other humans. I've worked in Lighthouse a bit before our meetings in D3. I've worked in many other cafes in Dubai, from RX to Cassette to others, and etc. People love this. This is a multi-thousand-year-old tradition, and it's not going to go away.
No, 100%.
The problem is financial on the short term, how we're going to manage through it. But
and we think of it the same way. It's about getting through the short term so we can be stronger in the medium and long term, for sure. Yep. Well, listen, that's been it's been great. Thank you very much for your time. I didn't throw as many curveballs as I wanted.
Where are the curveballs? Throw one.
I know.
At least throw one,
nice of a guy. Louis, thank you very much. Thanks for everyone that tuned in. I hope you enjoyed this live conversation, and if you weren't able to join us, we hope to conduct another one soon. In the meantime, all our episodes are available for free in your favorite podcast player and on the web at thelighthouse.ae/podcast. The Lighthouse Conversations is hosted by me, Hashim Montasser, and produced by Chirag Desai. You can connect with us on Instagram at thelighthouse.ae for more. And if you like our conversations, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and share our link with a friend. We'll see you in 2 weeks.